everyone. It is Monday, a beautiful day in Noblesville, Indiana, by the way. I hope it's beautiful wherever you are. It is Monday, July 31st, 2023. Welcome to another edition of Mental Health Monday here. I am so honored once again to be joined by a good friend of mine and a great public servant in her own right, the owner of Pathways to Healing Counseling here in Noblesville, Kristen Boyce. Good morning, Kristen.
Good morning, Mayor Jensen. I am so glad to be here today to talk about all things anxiety in school and the 7 habits of parents get into.
We have a lot to cover today. And it's actually a very perfect day to have that. So I know we have viewers from all over the world, which is awesome. But here in Noblesville, today is the first day back to school. You've got my Noblesville shirt on here in honor of the schools. First day back to school. So we're going to talk a little bit about that and some anxieties. Kristen, you were just mentioning, Allie, one of your daughters is driving to school for the first time this morning. I bet there's some anxiety around that. So we're gonna talk about a lot of things. You said there's great 7 kind of deadly habits that parents get into, which we're going to cover. So hopefully this is all aimed at really kind of helping parents or grandparents parent a little better, but we can weave in some how to help with our kids too, maybe from their perspective as well. So we're going to cover a lot of topics here this morning. Very, very timely topics. So we're honored that you have joined us. As always, if you have any questions, type them in the chat for us. We'll try to answer them on the fly. If not, we'll get back to you later. If you just want to say hi, let us know that you're watching, where you're from. Love to have you say that as well too. So, but before we do anything, we're going to focus on the breath this morning. So we'll do a little square breathing. Kristen, you want to lead us through that exercise that we start every show off with?
Absolutely. And it's how I start every counseling session with clients. Every single time we do breathing. So we walk the walk. And I recommend you do this every hour when you first start. It's like building a muscle. So once you start doing it, your brain will then go, oh, I need to breathe when I feel anxious or I feel activated or triggered. So the first thing I do is put my feet on the floor and I ground into my feet so I can kind of come into the present moment. I inhale through my nose for 4, hold for 4. So you're trying to get as biggest breath that you can. And then you're going to release out your mouth for 8, like you're cooling soup, or for kids, cooling a cookie, or you're blowing up the bubble, you're popping the bubble. Okay, so let's try it together. Feet on the floor, big deep inhale through your nose. Hold, and then slowly release out your mouth. You can stretch if you need to. You can move around. Your body's trying to release all that tension and tightness. So if you're in traffic and you're running late, or the kids are trying to hurry and get them on the bus, first thing you want to do is breathe, breathe, breathe. So let's do one more breath together, pressing into your feet. Big, deep inhale through your nose. And exhale out your mouth. And another brain cue I like to do is in for inhale, out for exhale. If you're just focusing on the breath, in, out, in, out. That helps you slow that breathing down and get it out of fight, flight, or freeze.
Love it. Thank you. Again, that always just makes me feel so good too. After that, I do a lot in traffic. I know you mentioned traffic. There's a little bit of construction going on around Noblesville right now. So I do a lot of square breathing and would encourage you to do the same thing. So great. All right. We're going to dive into anxiety. Nick Gomillion, I thought you just posted happy birthday. Thank you for saying that. It is my birthday today.
Yes, happy birthday.
It is. First day of school. I'm more excited about the first day of school. What a great present to me is to watch this.
I'm so excited for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Such a post.
39 years young right now. So one more year till the big one. So thank you, Nick.
Birthday. That's right. I meant to tell you that.
Yes, 39 years old today. So like I said, it's a great birthday present to see those cute kids get on the bus back for a routine. So I love a good routine. So we're going to talk about anxiety, back to school anxiety. So let's start with that, because I know there's a lot of parents tuning in this morning. I had a few text messages already of folks that were tuning in that were anxious. You know, you might have a kindergartner for the first time. You may have Matt Light, one of our deputy mayors, his youngest is going to kindergarten. Luke Light taking over the world, or maybe a middle schooler for the first time. I know I have a nephew that was getting on the bus from middle school for the first time. I also had a 7th grader who was too cool for school, but he said it was the first day of school. It was the first day of school that his hair was perfect for him. So yeah, I was like, you know what?
Oh, we'll take it.
take it.
Take it.
I just had to chuckle at that a little bit, but God bless those seventh graders. So whatever your reason for being anxious as a parent, or you have a first-time driver, as Kristen does, let's talk about that anxiety from a parent's perspective. Then again, I would love for to talk about anxiety from a kid's perspective too, because we're going to be at home tonight, anxiously awaiting those kids getting off the bus, and there may be some great excited kids, there may be some sad kids, there may be some, it's all going to be there at roughly 3:00. So let's get it out there from a kid's perspective too. Let's start with parents.
First of all, it's normal to feel anxious the first day of school for parents and kiddos, especially when there's new transitions. You might be going from preschool to elementary school to middle to high school to college. So just to normalize that it's okay to feel anxious, it's normal to feel anxious. Chances are most of the kids are experiencing the same thing you are, and it's okay. So the first thing is you breathing and noticing your own anxiety, because they'll pick up on that. Like, we're going to be late. And it's so hard as a parent, believe me. Instagram and Facebook and all the other places want to make it look so picture perfect. But behind the scenes, there's a lot going on trying to get people dressed. They don't like what they're wearing. Their hair's not right. I mean, this is legitimate how, especially middle school and high school, is this the right outfit? Is their outfit doesn't fit right? Whatever it is, they want to feel like they belong. They want to feel accepted. They want to feel like they're going to be included, and they're going to have friends. That, if you go back and float back to your own experiences, and as a parent, it's really important to work through those and to notice, are you projecting maybe your own fears? And then acknowledgement is key. So if they're feeling nervous, again, say, that makes sense. It's makes total sense you're feeling anxious. Tell me more about that. What are you afraid of? That's a key question that I love, regardless if it's just the first day of school or any other. What are you afraid of? And a lot of times kids don't even know they're afraid. Like, that word seems like I should be in a corner shaking. Like, what's the fear? What are you concerned about? What are you worried about? That's another way to say that. And you're going to get a mixture of emotions. For parents, sometimes it's a little bit of grief that they're going back, or it could be a lot of excitement that they're going back. And there could be some sadness. There could be some of your own fear. It's important to really acknowledge all the gamut of emotions. And then skited is like scared and excited. So we like to use that word, skited. Like, I'm both scared and I'm excited. And then some kids aren't excited at all to go back to school. They don't like school. They don't feel like they belong. They don't feel smart enough. They don't feel good enough. And it's important to recognize that shame lives in the crevice of childhood. Oftentimes we go to school and we don't feel like we matter. We feel like we're not going to get something. So it causes anxiety. I'm going to be behind. I'm not good at math. I'm not good at science. I'm not good at English. I mean, we have these beliefs about ourselves that we carry with us. And it's important to acknowledge that underneath shame is a lot of fear and a need to feel seen. So empathy, empathy, empathy. And when in doubt, listen and offer empathy. The minute we try to fix it, that's not helpful for anxiety. That we put the cart before the horse. So it's saying something like, "Oh, that makes sense that you feel really anxious. Tell me more about it." Oh, school it can be, it's sad because you miss summer and you wish you had more summer, and you might be excited to find out, who's in your classes. Really acknowledge the journey for the child. And then as a parent, it's important you're working through your own emotions around it. Journal, talk to a friend. If you need therapy around maybe some childhood memories that are coming up, do that. It's the best thing you can do. I do it. I love it. Obviously, I'm a therapist. Highly recommend it. Or, talking to in a mom's group. Some people go to a dad's group. Whatever that looks like you were saying you were texting with friends. I'm like, perfect.
Yeah.
I was texting with friends this morning going, oh my gosh, it's been a rough morning because one person didn't look like they felt good enough or look good enough. And so it's real. It's like having those people you can be real with and vulnerable with is so helpful as a parent.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's so important that we all just acknowledge each other and that everyone's going through this together and it's okay. I think two things. One, I was actually talking to somebody this morning, a good friend of mine, who has an adopted child. They did an international adoption, and their child is now starting kindergarten. So there's a whole nother layer of what does that look like for that child as they're going through. And I didn't even think about that. You know what I mean? Like you don't think everyone's going through this, and some are even going through multiple layers of this. And so talking to one another and sharing that, hey, that's pretty normal, or yes, we had those feelings too, I think as adults just helps solidify that for us and doesn't try to just hide that from one another. So I encourage people to continue talking to their friends and neighbors about their feelings around this. But then you were saying on that empathy thing, I was thinking right away, what do we not say when a kid says, oh, I'm nervous or I'm scared? I honestly would sometimes will say, oh, why? You don't need to be scared. Don't worry about that. Or you'll have, those are probably not the right things to say. Correct.
It's instinctual for what our kid to want to reassure our children that it's going to be okay and it's going to be fine. What I find is people that come to therapy when they've been told it's fine, it'll be fine, it'll be good.
Which really means
Feelings inside not expressed. Fine. Feelings inside not expressed. What ends up happening is they end up bypassing what they feel emotionally and then feeling like there's something wrong with them for feeling the way they do. So, what we're learning as parents is to shift what we would instinctually want to do to listen, try to understand, and then empathize. So that would look like, that makes sense that you feel really overwhelmed today. Tell me more. I'm afraid no one's going to sit with me at lunch. I go, oh, yeah, I can imagine you're trying to figure out who am I going to sit with at lunch. Now, the next thing I want to do is try to problem solve it. It's just what we do. Okay. I'll be like, we'll reach out to so and so. I'm going to stop. And if they want advice, say, are you wanting to just process this? Are you wanting me to kind of help you with problem solving it? Ask them. It's like, I want your help to problem solve it. Okay, let's brainstorm some ideas. What we don't do is we jump in to solve it. And a lot of times they're going to resolve it themselves eventually. And that can be the last step. So the last step might be, okay, so you feel like you're scared that you're going to be alone. I'm going to do that for a while until we feel like we've processed all the feelings. And now I might say, what are some of your ideas that might be helpful for you when you go in there and you're trying to figure out lunch? And they might be like, well, I might ask my friend in my class if they want to sit with me. Sometimes it's assigned seats and they don't have that luxury. Or I might, if they're older, I might text a few people that to see what lunch they have, and we're going to meet at such and such a spot. So you're going to ask them, what are some of your ideas that might make you feel better, in to figure out your lunch situation. So you see how I did a lot of processing at the front end. Then we can get into what are some of the options you can think of to help you through it.
But then letting them guide that conversation, which is
Letting them guide that, because then they'll feel like you're trying to fix it or fix them. And that's not necessarily what they want. Sometimes they do, and then you can say, "Are you wanting my help to problem solve this? Or are you just wanting to vent?" See
yeah.
the difference? And then they can tell you, and as they get older, they're gonna be able to tell you more often.
Yep, I like that. Again, that's just incredibly helpful information there because, again, I think we're going to see a lot of people get off the bus with a wide range of emotions today. And how do we help our kids process through that too? So you mentioned in the very beginning 7, and I keep saying deadly. I'm not sure if that's actually the title or not. But
That's actually it.
okay,
It's
good.
not
So,
my words. It's
good.
Dr. William Glasser's words.
Okay.
He wrote the book Unhappy Teenagers.
Okay.
I just so happened to stumble upon this book. I know of William Glasser. He's the founder of choice theory.
Okay.
And so when I dug into this book, it was so intriguing. I was like, oh, I'm going to look at this. And then he wrote down the 7 deadly, and this is how he frames it. Okay. The 7 deadly, and I'm going to read my little sheet here. I'm not going to need my glasses so I can read.
That's fine.
Okay. The deadly habits of external control that destroy relationships. This is what he says. So let's dive in because this ties into anxiety and how to handle it. Okay. The first one is criticizing. We already know that from the 4 apocalypse that we've talked about before, but criticizing. So if you're going to go critical, like, oh, why did you wear that outfit? That's not appropriate today. Instead of, hey, what are all your options for outfits? I'm making this up. Criticizing is going to lead to disconnection in your relationship with your kid. It's going to end up landing as shame. I'm not good enough. And it's going to disconnect you from your kid. And this is what we don't want. And we all criticize unconsciously, by the way. It just kind of seeps out sometimes when we least expect it, especially when we're driving with our children. And you're like, stop, stop. Why did you do that? The why did you is a critical statement. Okay. So we want to stay away from why did you do that?
And oftentimes, don't we show some criticism on our body expressions?
Yes. Our facial expressions are like this. Like, why did like that? That's a very critical face.
Your husband always comments. So for those that don't know, Kristen Boyce's husband's on the city council, and he will comment sometimes during city council meetings that he would suggest that I don't play poker because I tend to sometimes react on my face. But anyways, that was just
we've worked a lot on that for him.
Yeah, yes, we're not all perfect, you know.
I have to work on this every day because we don't know what our facial expressions do. I can't see my face, but they will, and my kids will tell me, "Why are you looking at me like that?" I'm like, well, I can't see, for starters. Maybe I'm squinting because I can't see the paper that you're showing me or whatever. And then I have to take the feedback, go, oh, I can see how that might have landed as criticism. And I'm really sorry. One of the key, and I'm going to get to this, is repair work. So if I give a critical statement, I need to own it and say, I can see how that landed as criticism. I am so sorry. Tell me how that felt. Yeah, you gave me this nasty look and made me feel like I was stupid. Thank you for telling me. I'm really going to work on that. And then I have to work on it. This is not just lip service. So that leads us into the number 2 deadly habit is blaming.
Okay.
So you left the milk out. I may not know if they really left the milk out. Could have been me by accident. You didn't fold the laundry. It might be true that they didn't, but how I'm going, you never fold the laundry. You always do this. Always, never, and starting with a you is a recipe for disaster. Because what am I going to do? I want to protect myself and I'm going to get defensive. So we're going to stay away from you statements, you always, you never, and we're not going to start with blame. Because the minute we start with blame, it turns to shame and we're disconnected.
So walk us through some alternatives to you statements.
So it might be like, I feel sad because the milk was left out today. Would you be willing to, let's say it's them that left the milk out. Would you please just put the milk away when you're done with it? See the difference versus you left the milk out again and now it's spoiled. So guess what they're going to do is be like, sorry. I mean, why are you getting so mad at me?
Yeah.
Okay. And then I'm dysregulated because now they left the gallon of milk out and that's however much money. And now we can't use the milk, whatever. That's my anxiety. Now I can approach it very differently from a self-regulated position versus a dysregulated position.
Got it.
Okay. Complaining.
Number 3 is complaining.
Yeah. So if someone leaves, let's say they leave their book bag on the floor, they leave their shoes on the floor. You're like, gosh, you always leave your stuff everywhere. You never put the cups away. That we've talked about. One of my triggers was the cups. Like there's a cup here, there's a cup there, there's a cup. I'm like, how many cups can we use? And instead, like you have cups everywhere. It might be like, I feel really overwhelmed when I see that there's multiple cups out. Could you please try to be more self-aware and put those in the dishwasher? See the difference?
Yeah. So really almost the complaining leads to the blaming as well.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah. So the complaining is, and this is something we just kind of automatically do sometimes as parents, because we're like, the house is a mess. You've left everything up. You didn't clean up after yourself. And instead of like, we nag about it, which is the next one. Complaining, nagging are like partners in crime.
Got it.
Like put your stuff away, check your email, put your phone away. We're nagging. And so we want to talk about, hey, I noticed like you get on your phone when we're trying to talk. Tell me what's going on. Are you feeling anxious about something? Are you afraid you're going to miss out on something? Help me understand like why that's maybe a pattern for you.
Okay.
Something like that. I'm giving you something off the top of my head.
But the nagging is really going to kind of erode a relationship with kids.
Yes. Or a partner.
Or spouse.
So yeah, nagging isn't it was so funny, and I'm gonna tell my in-laws, and they're probably gonna be so upset, but that's okay. We
Yeah.
talked about our biggest triggers. I went around and I said, "It was a great conversation. This is how you are in relationship with me." So
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
apologize to everybody in advance. I said, "Okay, what's your biggest trigger? Let's go around and say what your biggest trigger is." And my
I bet parties are a lot of fun at the boys' house. You
it's so
know?
isn't it
Get
so fun?
around. Let's talk about our triggers.
Here we go.
Here we go.
She says, "My
Woo.
biggest trigger is when I ask somebody to do something and I want it done right away." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So, like, you want it done right away. How do you manage it when it's not done right away? So, one of my triggers is the cups.
Mhm.
Okay. Like, I look down literally and there's like 5 cups. Okay. So I go, take a deep breath. And I have to manage my own reactivity so I don't come across as nagging. How many times? I'm not saying I haven't done it. How many times have I told you to put the cups away? How hard is it? That would be a shame, blame,
It's all in there.
nagging, complaining. Look, I just hit all the list. And it's so easy to do because I'm
Yeah.
thinking, yeah, I've told you 20 times to put the cups away. It's how I approach it and how I regulate my own trigger. This is very important, whether you're in a relationship, a parent, a grandparent. We have to be self aware. This is the key with all these 7 deadly. Are you self aware enough to own how you're showing up? Then your children learn how to own. So that's where the repair work comes in. I just really got dysregulated there, and I'm so sorry. I came across as shaming my girls. I taught my girls what shame means, not feeling good enough. And so now they'll tell me, "Hey, mom, that really feels like you're shaming me, or that feels like shame." And I'm like, "Why did I teach you this?" But no, I'm kidding. I like, "Thank you for sharing that
Yeah.
it feels like shame." And then I can go, "I am so sorry that I said that, and tell me more about how that hurt. I am so sorry I hurt you." Repair. I do a million repairs. That's something we weren't taught to do. I don't think our parents learned about repairs. They just
Sure.
didn't. The repairs are what keeps you in connection with the person. Acknowledgement and ownership and empathy for what you've said, done, behaved. Now, if you keep doing it without taking action to make a change, it can become like "want, want, want."
Right.
You've said that a million times and you haven't done anything different.
Well, and isn't that something even just beyond parenting that we see even in the real world? Just a willingness to admit that, maybe you didn't do something correctly, or maybe you didn't communicate correctly. I mean, I think it's a huge leadership lesson too, is humbling yourself and owning kind of maybe your different viewpoint on something.
I think it's an essential,
Mhm.
absolute essential leadership component and quality for someone to have.
Mhm.
As a human being to be in relationship with others, and we need to teach our children this through our own example of modeling when I make a mistake, when I hurt, when I'm off base, when I'm dysregulated.
Mhm.
It is one of the greatest gifts you can give your children.
Mhm. Love
Teaching
that.
them how to be a centered human being. And when you take responsibility, you're free then. People can blame you, but you've already taken the
Already
responsibility.
said it.
So
Yep, I agree.
it's the power. You're
Yeah,
empowering yourself.
yeah.
Okay. So moving
What
down.
number are we on here?
Yes.
We
Okay.
lost track.
Threatening.
Okay,
Threatening.
threatening.
You and this type, if you do this, I'm going to do that.
We do that a lot at our house because we've tried to discuss about like, I'm gonna take away your iPad all day, and then later I'm like, ugh, why did I take your iPad away? Because I really wish you were on the iPad, and not wanting to play dolls with me. So you have to live with those threats. Anyways, tangent.
That's right. And then we say it, but we don't really do it a lot of
Yeah.
times. We're
Mhm.
like, "You're going to be grounded for 3 weeks." And then a day in, you're like, "Okay, that was a little extreme. I didn't really mean that." And it's okay to go back and say, "I've rethought this. And I think that doesn't really fit what happened. Let's rethink this."
Mhm.
Okay. It doesn't work. Okay. Punishing, we said punishing. And here's another one that I think is critical. Rewarding to control. So I'm going to reward you to control you.
Okay.
So let's go a little bit further into that. What do I mean by that?
I feel like
So,
I'm guilty of this, so I'm
okay,
intrigued.
so I'm going to pay you for every A you get.
Oh, okay. Yeah, guilty.
Okay. We've all done this,
Yeah.
right? and we think it's a good thing. I mean, it's
We've
not
done it with basketball
good or
shots.
bad. We want to make it, is it intrinsically sinking in, or are they doing it to get the reward? So this is what we see in social media, okay? People are putting things out there to get the external validation
Mhm.
rather than I just want to share it without the likes, without the feedback, without the comments. I just am doing it without needing anything back. This takes a lot of work, by the way. And our kids' brains don't develop till 25, so they're not really getting that. But how much are we doing to try to manipulate and control outcomes? That's what in this wonderful book he's saying. How much are we doing to try to manipulate and control behavior and outcomes? And we have to take a look at it. Why do I need my kids to get all A's? What's that about? I
Mhm.
mean, this is the deep dive that goes below what we talk about,
Peeling back the onion.
peeling back the onion.
Love
So
it.
those are the 7 deadly habits that take away connection.
Something in there for everybody, huh?
Oh, it's a poo-poo platter. I mean,
Yeah.
if I
It's
to get 1 or 2 of these, I can do the whole list
yeah,
if I'm
right.
honest with myself. If
Yes,
I
if you're
feel
honest with yourself.
really anxious, this is my point to tie it into anxiety. If I'm feeling really anxious and it feels out of control, guess what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna try to do
Yeah,
everything to
yes.
try to get control of the situation.
Man. Okay. Well, I those are like I said, there's I'm sure everyone watching this is gonna be somewhat triggered by your list there because there's something for everybody. But I wanna land the plane here as we wrap this up with as kids get home tonight, as kids of all emotions get off the bus, as parents of all emotions throughout the day. I think you've hit on the parent thing. I understand naming your emotions, talk to your friends and neighbors, reach out, share your feelings, and acknowledge them. That's the best way we can, as parents, process through this. What kind of questions can we end on and ask our kids tonight that might dislodge fine? How's your day? Fine, great. What can we kind of ask? What does that look like?
What was the best part of your day? What was the hardest part of your day? What was your greatest fear today? And maybe what's your greatest fear tomorrow?
Mhm.
And what did you this is for old if you have an older one, what did you learn about yourself? And then how the best question, I love this question. And if the kids don't have their emotional language yet, it's okay to still ask it. How are you feeling about going back to school? What was that like for you? That's a very broad, open-ended question. What was it like for you today? And if they're and sometimes they need to eat first, like,
Yeah,
they
yeah,
need to have a little snack or
yeah.
something because if you're, like, diving into the questions, they're too ti their brains can't process they
If
need
you're
food.
if you're waiting at the bus stop, it may be more about you than them.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, let's get them a snack,
Yeah.
let's maybe do it at dinner, and if dinner's meltdown time, just trust the instincts of when is the best time to ask, but please notice, acknowledge, and empathize. Use empathy to connect. And
The
I
worst thing you can do is not ask.
Yes.
You got to
And we
ask.
talk about things. We talk about it all, and
Mhm.
nothing's off the table.
Yeah.
And, and if something triggers me, it's my responsibility to notice my body's response and manage that trigger so I can be fully attuned to what they're sharing with me.
Love it. Well, hey, this was a incredibly fruitful episode. Hopefully, there are a lot of parents and grandparents and guardians, all the wonderful people that make up our society today that are watching this show that can learn something. But ask your kids question tonight. Ask them. Be willing to listen to them and willing to maybe even share your own anxieties with them. It will go a long way. So, again, Kristen Boyce, you're incredible. Thank you for spending time with us today on Mental Health Monday. If someone's in a crisis mode, I know that we're not really talking crisis here today, but if you are in a crisis mode, where do we go?
988 text call 24/7 anytime any day of the week. You matter, you're important. Life is worth living and you're not a burden and you're not too much and the pain can be tended to and managed. 988.
Awesome. It looks like somebody just commented a recommendation. Stop Asking How Your Day Was by Daniel J. Crawford. Looks like another great book
Excellent.
recommendation there.
Thank
Awesome. Thank you for recommending it. I appreciate it. Hey, stay tuned. We'll be back next month with another edition of Mental Health Monday. But in the meantime, stay safe. And thank you so much, Kristen Boyce.
Thank you.
Welcome back to school, everybody. All right.